With Monster Hunter World Iceborne comes Master Rank, a challenge that will test every hunter, but with the right gear and builds, hunters can overcome anything. I'm Darcblade, and we're back with even more amazing builds for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at full set beginner builds for the Switch Axe. The Switch Axe is a complex weapon, switching between axe and sword forms. Whilst in axe form it has a longer reach and doesn't detract from your file gauge, whilst in sword form you have access to high damaging combos but at the cost of your file gauge. The downside comes in the form of the weapon's mobility. But with the right skills, the Switch Axe can be made to shine to enhance the positive aspects of the weapon whilst reducing the negative. The beginner builds I used demonstrate this in various ways. Now a disclaimer though for this series, as Iceborne is still young, most hunters may not have been able to farm everything they need for the most high-end game builds, so this series will instead focus on full set builds, highlighting some of the amazing armor designs while at the same time helping new Iceborne players get through to the end of the main story. As a result, these builds will not feature Elder Dragon loot or augmentations, and most of the customization will come in the form of different jewels, charms and weaponry. So the first build I use is the BEOTODUS Ice build. This build is an ice based build using the BEOTODUS armor. BEOTODUS armor has some of the best quality of life skills that a new player could want in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, but the caveat being it shines best when using an ice weapon. So for this build you'll need the entire BEOTODUS set, which includes the Beo Helm Alpha, Mel Alpha, Vambraces Alpha, Coil Alpha and Greaves Alpha. I'm also using a Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using Hector Glacier, which is the Legiana Switch Axe. As for your jewels, now remember your jewel collection may differ to what I have here, and if you don't have all the jewels shown in these videos then you may have to consider replacing them with what you have available to you. But I've gone for Tenderizer jewels to max out the weakness exploit skill, a frost jewel to max out the ice attack skill, and finally a sharp jewel to provide us with that protective polish. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 893 with purple sharpness. You'll have no percent affinity, although this will actually be a potential 50% affinity when you're on a hunt, going for monster weak points, and those said weak points have been tenderized first. You have an ice rating of 750 with power elemental files, and as for your defense, you're strong against ice and dragon, neutral against water, but fairly weak to thunder and fire. As for the skills, you'll have ice attack level 6. Ice attack increases the ice rating and damage of a build. You have earplugs level 5. This is a byproduct of the gear, it comes built into the set. This allows you to ignore all monster roars, so it's a great quality of life skill. It allows you to continuously attack a monster during their roar animation, or if you need to, retreat, relocate, whatever. You have health boost level 3. Health boost increases our maximum health to that potential 200. You have weakness exploit level 3. Weakness exploit increases your affinity when you're attacking monster weak spots, and should you tenderize that weak spot first with a clutch claw attack, the affinity bonus is increased even further. You have Handicraft level 3. Handicraft increases the sharpness gauge of a weapon. You have aquatic / polar mobility, a byproduct of the gear but helps us move through deep snow and water a little bit easier. You have Stamina Surge level 1, again a byproduct, but allows us to recharge our stamina at a quicker pace. And finally you'll have Protective Polish level 1. Protective Polish allows us to put a protective coating over our sharpness gauge, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration of time. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a quite simple build, combining many useful and quality of life skills together. Whilst it does lack some skills that a Switch Axe could find useful, such as Evade Extender, this build is still perfectly functional and works great against any monster, especially if they're weak against the ice element. In fact, I find myself still using this build occasionally for general farming, even at endgame. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the JYURATODUS water build. This build demonstrates the JYURATODUS set, which is again very similar to the previous set we've shown off, but makes use of the water element as well as the focus skill, making it a great build to use against enemies who are weak to the water element. So for this build you need the entire JYURATODUS set, which includes the Jira Helm Beta, Mel Beta, Vambraces Beta, Coil Beta, Greaves Beta and Handicraft Charm 3. And I've also gone for the Jira Cataclysm 2 for my weapon. As for your jewels, you've got a fair few to play around with this set. I've gone for Stream Jewels to max out the water rating of this build. I've then gone for Tenderizer Jewels to max out Weakness Exploit, a Charger Jewel to max out the Focus skill. This also came with a byproduct of a Vitality Jewel, to which I've added a few more to max out the health boost. I've then gone for a Handicraft Jewel to add some sharpness to this build, a Sharp Jewel to provide that protective polish, and finally an Expert Jewel to add some critical eye. So, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 963 with white sharpness. You have 10% affinity, which will actually be 60% affinity when you're on a hunt, attacking monster weak points, and tenderize those said weak points first. You have a water rating of 600 with power elemental files. And as for your defense, you're strong against ice and water, neutral against dragon, but fairly weak to fire and thunder. As for the skills, you'll have water attack level 6. Water attack increases the water rating of a build as well as the water damage. You have handicraft level 4, health boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, focus level 3. Focus for the switch axe allows the file gauge to charge up more quickly, allowing you to enter that amped phase more quickly when compared to not having focus. It also allows the gauge to recharge faster as well, so it is a little bit of a quality of life skill for the switch axe. It could almost be seen as the opposite to the power prolonger skill, which instead of charging up the weapon faster, allows it to stay charged for longer periods. Anyway, you also have ice resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear but helps with our defense in regards to resisting ice attacks. You have critical eye level 2, increasing our affinity by a set percentage. You have latent power level 2, this is a byproduct of the gear, but after a certain amount of time fighting a monster, it will activate, increasing your affinity, whilst at the same time reducing the amount of stamina you consume. And finally, you'll have protected polish level 1. So as you can see, it is another basic build very similar to the previous build shown. The main difference being that it's a water elemental build and it also makes use of the focus skill. Whilst focused at level 3 may be a little bit overkill in regards to how quickly your file gauge charges up, it nonetheless demonstrates how effective the skill works with the switch axe. Like I said, some of you may prefer the power prolonger skill, in which case you can switch out some of the duels. The choice, as always, is up to you. But like with the previous build, remember to take into account a monster's elemental weaknesses, as this build won't work against anything that is resistant to water. But anyway, let's move on to our third build, which is a little bit of a quirky build, and is aimed to demonstrate skills that help counter the main weakness of the switch axe, which is its mobility. So, for this build, I've gone for the entire NARGACUGA set, which features the NARGACUGA Helm Beta, Meld Beta, Braces Beta, Folds Beta, and Grease Beta. I've also gone for an Attack Charm 4, which for players going through Iceborne for the first time will only be an Attack Charm 3. And for my weapon, I've gone for the Knight's Crescent, which is found in the NARGACUGA switch axe tree. As for your jewels, you don't have many to play around with this time, unfortunately. The main jewels I've gone for are jumping jewels to provide us that evade extender skill. These also come with byproducts in the form of an evasion jewel, which adds to the evade window skill. They also have an attack jewel to increase our attack. Also, if you only had the attack charm at level 3, this would bring it to that level 4. One of these also had a byproduct of an expert jewel, to which I've added a few more. I've also added a few charger jewels, which had byproducts in the form of vitality jewels, to which I've added one more to max out the health boost. So, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which as always will be 200 health when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 945 with purple sharpness. You have 35% affinity with no element. You have power files, and as for your defense, you're strong against water, neutral against ice and dragon, but weak to fire and thunder. As for your skills, you'll have attack boost level 5, this will only be level 4 should you be going through Monster Hunter World Iceborne story for the first time. This increases the attack value of a build, but on top of that at level 4 you also get an extra bonus 5% affinity. You'll have evade window level 5, this increases the invincibility frames when we perform dodges. You have health boost level 3, stamina surge level 3, evade extender level 3. Evade extender increases the distance at which we dodge and roll. You have critical eye level 2, focus level 2, piercing shots level 1, a byproduct of the gear unfortunately, it's not needed whatsoever, and peak performance level 1. Peak performance again is a byproduct but increases our attack so long as we have full health whilst on a hunt. Also you'll have the set bonus NARGACUGA's Essence, True Razor Sharp, which reduces our sharpness loss when performing attacks. So even though we only have a little bit of purple sharpness, it should last a fair amount of time. So as you can see, it's not the strongest build when it comes to DPS, but it does demonstrate and counter the main weakness the switch axe has, which is its maneuverability. Having the evade extender means that you don't always have to sheathe your weapon and can quite easily chase a monster with rolls to catch up with them. Also, thanks to having a maxed out evading window, it means that you can pretty much dodge out of the way of any incoming attack, and the invincibility frames that the evade window provides means that you shouldn't be getting hit. Of course, this means that you have to keep an eye on a monster's movement, as if you become too greedy with your combos, especially while in sword mode, it means that you don't have time to recover from the attack animations to perform the dodge to avoid the monster's attack. But nonetheless, this is a great build, especially if you are learning the switch axe for the first time, allowing you to learn the weapon, and then once you're comfortable, you can maybe drop these skills, especially the evade window, for more DPS orientated skills. But this build could also benefit from things such as an elementalist jaw to provide you that non-elemental skill. As the weapon doesn't have an element, this would increase our attack even further, but as always, the choice is up to you. The bonus about this build is it can also be used against any monster, regardless of their elemental or element weaknesses. But anyway, let's move on to the fourth and final build, which is the GLAVENUS Maximum Might build. This makes use of the set bonus found on the GLAVENUS set, allowing this build to have maxed out Maximum Might, while at the same time making use of one of the higher raw attack switch axes in the game, the Acid Smasher 2. So for this build I've gone for the entire GLAVENUS set, which includes the GLAVENUS Helm Beta, Mel Beta, Braces Beta, Fouleds Beta and Greaves Beta. I've also gone for an Attack Charm 4, which again will be an Attack Charm 3 if you're going through Monster Hunter World Iceborne story for the first time, and for my weapon I've gone for the Acid Smasher 2. As for your jaws, you've only got a few to play around with here. First of all, I've gone for Jumping Jaws, which also contain a byproduct in the form of an Attack Jaw and Expert Jaws. I've then gone for Handicraft Jaw to provide us a little bit of extra sharpness. This also came with a byproduct in the form of a Protection Jaw. I've then gone for a Mighty Jaw to max out Maximum Might, as well as a Charger Jaw to max out Focus, and both of these also came with byproducts in the form of Vitality Jaws to add a little bit of health boost, and finally I've gone for a Sharp Jaw for that Protected Polish skill. So, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 130 health, 100 stamina, which the health will be higher when on a hunt when you take in all your relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 1120 with purple sharpness. You'll have 10% affinity, which will actually be higher on a hunt thanks to Maximum Might. It will actually be 50% so long as your stamina is full. You'll have no element with power files, and you're strong against fire and thunder, but fairly weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you'll have attack boost level 5, although this will only be attack boost level 4 if you're going through the story for the first time. You'll have maximum might level 5. Maximum might increases our affinity by a set percentage so long as our stamina is full. At level 5 it will increase it by 40%. Also on top of that, maximum might has changed since Monster Hunter World. Basically it will no longer activate as soon as your stamina bar is full, unless you have maximum might at level 5 thanks to the GLAVENUS set bonus. If it's below level 5, it will take a few seconds for the skill to activate after your stamina has been replenished. Anyway, you'll also have Handicraft level 4, you'll have Focus level 3, Health Boost level 2. It would have been nice to get this higher, but the GLAVENUS set does have a fairly high defense, so you should still be alright. You'll have Evade Extender level 2, to provide that little bit of quality of life and counter the mobility issues the switch axe has. You have Critical Eye level 1, a byproduct of our jewels. You have Power Prolonger level 1, allowing our switch axe gauge to stay charged up for longer periods. You have Divine Blessing level 1, which gives us a chance when we take a hit to receive reduced damage. And finally, you'll have Protected Polish level 1. You'll also have the set bonus GLAVENUS Essence, Maximum Might Secret, allowing us to get the Maximum Might skill to that potential level 5. Maximum Might at level 5 though, allows the skill to instantly activate as soon as our stamina is full. Normally Maximum Might will only go to level 3. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a little bit of an all-rounder build, and there is plenty of room for changes if you so wish. For example, you could drop the Charger Jewel if you wanted to for an Elementalist Jewel, which will increase the attack of this build, but it means you'll drop a point in focus, which isn't really an issue, but you'll also drop a point in health boost. But regardless of which route you take and how you spec the build in terms of jewels, this build is still quite powerful and a little bit of an all-rounder regardless of what monster you'll fight. So there we have it. Those are beginner full set builds that I use for the switch axe in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now of course there are a lot more endgame mix sets to come, and as I always say, you don't have to use what is shown in these videos. Use what you want to use, as most tasks in Monster Hunter World Iceborne can be taken on with any weapon or gear set. Also, builds taken from previous seasons can still work in Iceborne, at least for early game. They will have the DPS, but may lack the survivability. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you beginner Iceborne builds for the switch axe in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.